So what were the learnings from the last session? What did you learn? Can anyone speak or talk or explain? Perfect, Rohan. Thank you. If I have to ask you, what is user experience? So how would you define that?
Yeah, Manprit, I'd like to answer to this question, Manprit. Can you
hear me? Sure, please.
Yeah. It is the feel what the customers get when they use our products.
Yeah, right. So when you talk about the feel, how does he get the feel? What he does?
He interacts with the product. When he logins or when he uses our product, okay. When he goes from one frame to another, he's interacting literally with the product. And it should solve his pain points, and he should reach his goal as easy as possible. It should not be very tough.
Perfect. So what is that one thing that we should do as a UX designer, and that will help us, create better product? What is that one thing?
Yeah, we should empathize our users.
Right. So it's all about empathy. It's all about understanding the feeling of the user. So the better you are able to understand the feeling of the user, so better, good level of product you will be able to create. So Ayush wrote creating a usable design and experience. That's good. And Kajal wrote the user experience is the process where the analysis all the problems before it reaches customers. Yeah, that's fine. So basically what you are doing here is you basically try and understand who is the user. So you understand, okay, so these are the target users, and in the next stage you go and try to interact with them. You try to understand who they are, where do they use the product, or what is the level of their expertise at different levels, and if you're creating some product for someone who lives in a village and with very less of technical knowledge, and also if in the village they might have very low bandwidth. So what you will do, you will create a product which uses less bandwidth and also which is able to, the villagers should be able to use the product easily, even without having good expertise in technology. Okay, so that is possible only when you able to understand who the users are, where are they using the product, and why are they using the product, what problem they are trying to solve for themselves by using the product. So there are so many different things, and you can understand and come to know about those problems or those needs only once you understand the user and also do the research. So as we talked in our previous class, product is basically initiated by the business person or someone who wants to develop the product or solve the product. So once they decide on developing or designing the product, it comes to the UX person. So UX person gets the brief, and then what he does is he tries to get more understanding from the business. And once he gets the understanding from business related to what they want to achieve and for whom they want to create the product, then it's the role and responsibility of UX designer to get in touch with those users and then try to do all the research stuff. Okay, so what we understood is, or the process that we saw was there are different stages. And there are different processes, we'll learn about those things, but this is very simple process. And here what we do is we understand the challenge and then do the research. We were talking about the research in our previous session, and I talked about there are two kinds of research that we mostly conduct. There are two different methods of research. So one is the qualitative and the other is the quantitative, and we'll talk more about this. Okay, we also saw this. So basically the quantitative and the qualitative, and out of this we conducted this interview. Okay, so this interview we conducted in the last session, and you saw how to write the script, and then once you have finalized or selected the participants, once you have invited them, how do you interact with them, how do you make them comfortable, and then you do the interview and do the normal chit chat, normal talking, and through that you try to get the insights and valuable information from them or feedback from them. So we talked about qualitative in our previous session. So I'll talk more about these, what are the other things also that we do at a very high level, and I'll not deep dive into any of these. After that I'll get into the quantitative part, and there we'll try to create one survey. Okay, so from qualitative we did one, that was the interview in the last session, and in the coming session we'll try to see if we can do it today. So we'll do quantitative research. Okay, let's get started. So whenever you're conducting the research, try to get the answers of these questions. So one, before going and into the market or initiating the research, you should know who are my users, like for whom are we creating this product, who will be using our product. So that's the most important things. Okay, and then what are my users trying to accomplish? What does that mean? That means like what are the goals of the users, so why would they come and take subscription or like buy your product, or like why would they come and like use your product? So there should be some reason, and that is basically termed as goals. So what are the user goals? What are the goals of the users? So that we need to understand. And how do my users think about when they are trying to accomplish? So basically, now suppose they have taken a product and they are trying to accomplish their goal. So what are the feelings that they will have? So try to understand that. So empathizing with that is very important, as Naveen said. Similarly, what kind of experience do my users find appealing and rewarding? This is again like very important context. So basically, you can understand this only when you talk to the user. So once you start talking to the user and start asking questions, then you'll start, sharing their different knowledge and like insights and all. And then you'll come to know like, okay, so these are the few things that makes him happy and these are the other things that makes him sad. Then like after you have learned this, and once you go back and like start designing your product, so then you'll know like, okay, so these are the things that I need to consider if I want to make something good and meaningful for him. So what kind of experience do my users find appealing and rewarding? So that's important. And how should my product behave? As I said, so in case the target user is technical, then you can make your product, the experience, the journey, the flow, you can enhance the experience, you can have like a lot of interaction and other things. But again, if you're making it for someone who is not that literate or who's very less in technology, doesn't have an expertise in technology, in those cases, what you'll do is you'll try to keep things simple, reduce the number of steps, take less amount of information, and so on. So basically, depending upon like how the user is interacting or what is his behavior towards the product, like how he feels, does he have to take like a lot of load or cognitive load using the product? So basically, understanding his behavior and emotions is very important. And what form should my product take? Again, it depends upon like the expertise of the user. If it's advanced, then you can make it a little, enhanced, intuitive and all. But if not, then no. How will users interact with my product? I talked about it. How can my product functions be most effectively organized? Now, suppose you were doing your research and like the research, you find out that, okay, so these are the needs of the users. But how would you know that what should be the flow and what should be the organization of the complete content, information, and what should be the flow? So you can understand that only once you do all the discussion and talking with the user. How can my product put an understandable, appealing, and controllable face on technology? I talked about it. When it comes to technology, for the people who are not tech savvy, keep it simple. Who are very tech savvy into technology, you can enhance the experience for them. How will my product itself introduce to first-time users? This is very important. So now that if you're creating a new product, so how would the onboarding happen? Would it be like very simple, and would they be able to like onboard themselves on their own, or there are different ways? Like someone from the team will go and like onboard the users. It depends upon the experiences that you're crafting and also the complexity of the product. So if you're designing something that's very complex and for the industry like travel or medical, so there the products are generally complicated, and you need someone to like onboard them, explain them like how the entire functionality will work, like, and that will like do for the first time. But after that time, it is always they are able to learn and all. But in the case of complex like the medical, so if the user doesn't have like much of understanding, if you're creating a new product altogether, then you might have to like introduce the product to them. So what level of introduction is required, you can understand that by doing the research. And how can my product deal with problems that users encounter? So if they are using any product or product from a competitor, so what are the challenges they are facing and how your product can solve that problem? So that you can understand only once you do the research. How will my product help infrequent and inexperienced users understand how to accomplish goals? So all the other topics also talked about this. So if the user is not much experienced, they don't know much about how the product works, and how can you simplify that? And what are the steps that you need to simplify that experience? So everything talks about the same thing. It's basically understanding the user, understanding what their need is, how you can simplify stuff for them, reduce the complexity, make it very simple, less steps, and so on. And how can my product provide sufficient depth and power to the expert users? So others were like about the generic stuff, generic like users and all. But if someone is very expert in everything, he knows technology, he knows how to do his product, like you all team. So basically, if someone is very expert, then how can you like enhance his experience? So you can't give him like a very simple product, then he'll not use. So he needs something very intuitive, very like, with a lot of features and all. So you have to keep those things in mind before designing for them. So I talked about these two. So basically there are two kinds of research, or two methods of research, or two types of research. Basically one is the qualitative research and the other is the quantitative research. And if I talk about qualitative research, it's all about discussion, getting information in the form of ideas and talking, participating, understanding, reading, so those things. So basically all the research result is expressed in the form of words. So if you see on the right, when you conduct interview, you talk to them, you ask questions and then get the answer. So all is happening in the form of words. Similarly, focus groups is also one kind of interview where you call some people and then have discussion with them. This again is in the form of words. Ethnography is basically observing. You go and study the culture, you study the environment of the user, where he uses the product and where he lives, and what are the behaviors when using the product, his daily life, like what does he do, what are the different activities he perform, So understanding that is basically ethnography study. And last but not the least is the literature review. So basically, like suppose if you're working on a very complex product, then in those cases, you will read a lot of literature. As I said like earlier, related to medical. So if I'm creating a product for medical industry, so then I'll read a lot of things, a lot of information. I'll go through a lot of published material and all. Okay, so that's because I need to understand what that industry is. And in order to understand, I'll have to read a lot of stuff. So that is another way of conducting qualitative research. Perfect. So till here, any questions, any problem, any confusion? So this is the first stage. Okay. All okay? Okay, perfect. I'll not talk in detail about these things, but I'll just like give you a small introduction. So basically there are different methods that we follow. One is called as the kickoff meeting. So with this one, the initial, when you're starting the work project, so what you do is you try to do a meeting. That's called as the initial meeting, first meeting, and that is called as the kickoff meeting. So you try to call everyone, try to understand, as I talked it many times. So basically you try to understand from the business stakeholders, like marketing team, other people involved in the project, and try to understand like what are they trying to make, what are they trying to accomplish, who are the users, and why they are doing this. So everything, all like 5 W's and 1 H, like you try to get the answer, who will be using, where they will be using, what they will be using for, and who will be using. So everything around that, and how will they be using. So everything they ask in the kickoff meeting. That's the initial meeting that they do. I talked about the literature review. So basically they read the internal documents, they read industry reports, and then also read a lot of blogs, a lot of news items, and then similar kind of competition. If they have some similar kind of product, they also try to review and research about that. So this is basically the literature review. So you're reading more about the similar kind of product. Then the third is I gave this homework to you. So basically product prototype. So if there is an existing product within the company, you try to understand that. And if not, you try to understand what is the competition doing. You try to evaluate, research, search, and see like there are XYZ competitors and they have XYZ kind of like products. What are the subscription models? What are the features that they're offering at different price points? And also try to understand like who are the user groups or the users they are targeting. And along with that, you also try to understand the feedback of those users. So basically doing a complete thorough study of what the competition is doing. Okay, so that is the competitive audit. Next is stakeholder interviews. So this is basically you talk to everyone who is involved in the team or the business, and you try to understand everything about them, like why they are doing. I talked about this also like earlier. So in the kickoff meeting, you call all the stakeholders and all. Okay, so this is the stakeholder interviews. You try to get complete understanding from the business people, business side, and also from the technology side, and so on. What information we try to gather, like when conducting this kind of stakeholder interviews, these are the different kind of information, and this is very, and once you have the understanding of this, explain that business model canvas or present everything in a good manner. You try to understand like what is the product vision. So as what is the USP, what is the business trying to achieve, and so on, and what are the budgets and the schedules. So what are the budgets, like how much money is being allocated for that particular initiative or the product, and then what are the technical constraints and opportunities. So basically technically what is feasible, what is not feasible, what is the budget, what is the team, resources, everything they try to understand at this point. it depends upon also at what level you are in the process. If you are at a senior level, you will be involved in this. If you are just starting in your career, or like, you have joined as an internship, or like in the first or second year, you might not be part of these stakeholder interviews. But as you grow, as you will have more experience, you will start participating in these. And then you will try to understand what are the business drivers. Basically, why is business working on that particular product? Why has they initiated that product? So you need to understand that. Is it just for money, or there are any other reasons like increasing the satisfaction, retaining the customers, increasing the conversion rate? So there could be like many business drivers. So what are those? You need to understand those things. So, and then stakeholders' perceptions of their users. This is very, very important. So here, what you do is, when you're conducting the stakeholder interview, you try to understand from who are the users from their point of view. Okay, so that's why it's called as like stakeholders' perception of their users. And we try to understand this when conducting the qualitative research. Also, when conducting simple product, it's okay. We don't do a lot of like SME subject matter expert interviews. But again, working on complex products, we try to interview expert people of the industry. Like if I'm working on a medical industry, might not be aware of everything. So I'll go and talk to the people who are already an expert in the industry. I'll try to like go and get insights, understand with them like how the process works and what are the different things that needs to be considered when designing the product, everything around that. Okay, so this is basically the subject matter expert interviews. So I'm just giving you an insight of this because different companies follows different methods. So you should be at least aware of these methods. Okay, when you're starting, you will not be involved in all these kind of methods, but learning is always good. Okay, apart from this, we do two other kind of research. So one is the customer interview and the other is the user interview. And when I talk about the customer and the interview, we need to understand like what is the difference between the customer and the user. So the customer is one who will actually buy the product, and user is one who will actually use the product. So in case of big corporates, when they buy certain product, who is responsible for buying? There's a purchase manager, there is a admin, and so on. So they are the one who buys the product. Okay, but end users might be different. So you need to understand the difference between the customer and the users. So when conducting the interview, you need to understand like one, what is the user need, but also understand like who is the one who is going to buy the product. What is that they want to achieve for their users? So you need to understand that. And the customer are one basically who decides whether the product should be bought or not. Okay, so understanding them is also very important because just understanding the user won't help. Otherwise, like the customers will not buy, or the purchasing manager, he will not buy the product. So you need to understand like whether your product needs the approval, like when you're selling the product, and if it's a complex product and a lot of decision is going to happen to be made before buying the product. So understanding who is going to buy the product, understanding their mindset, and understanding like what are the different thoughts that goes in their mind. So that is very important. And last but not the least, this is very important. This is basically the users, the end users. So here we try to understand context of how the product fits, how he's going to use the product, and what is his knowledge about the product, and also like what are the activities or the tasks that they wish to accomplish, their motivation, goals, and mental model of the users. So basically, if what do they understand about the product, about that product. So their understanding about the product is very important, and we as a UX designer need to know like why or what is that they understand by a certain product. So basically, if I tell you like a phone, so you'll understand, okay, the phone is in this form. Okay, so that is basically the mental model of the user, or everyone we have the same mental model. But if I go and like you create the phone in the form of the circle, and then I go and tell them like this is a phone, he'll say no, this is not a phone. We should work as per the mental model of the user and not like out of that. Okay, so this we understood, and also like when we are understanding them, so we also do a lot of like interviews we do, as I discussed. We try to observe them like when using the product, when they're actually using the product. We do a lot of ethnography interviews. We try to understand like where they're using the product, so things around that. So observation also plays a big important role. So these are different types of goals that we try to achieve in the research part. So basically, goals is basically the kind of question that we ask here is like goal driven, opportunity driven, then priorities and the information. So basically, what makes a good day or bad day for the user? So that is the goal. So if he's able to achieve the goal, so then that is what we want to fulfill or create those kind of features in the product. So your opportunity is basically what activities currently waste their time. So we need to, when you're creating the new design or like the experience, we should remove those hurdles and what is the priorities, like most important use features or the tasks that they fulfill on the app, and information is like what helps them make decisions. So basically these are goal driven questions wherein we try to understand like why he's there on the app or the product to, why he's there. Basically we try to get that answer. And then system is basically, it's all about the function, frequency, failure, expertise. So basically when you are there and using the system, whether you're getting the response or not, basically what are the common most important features that they use, what are the shortcuts that they're applying. So basically up is like why they are on the app, and the other is like what are the activities that they perform. That's it, goal driven and system driven. So this is good to know. Okay, and some are also like workflow oriented questions. So basically we try to understand like, okay, so in order to achieve this, what do you do, and like what is your process, and so on. So basically these are another types of questions that we ask during the research, and these are important points to remember when conducting or understanding the user, asking question and all. Don't consider yourself as an expert. Try to get the answers from the end user or the user who you are interviewing. So that's why I say that assume the role of an apprenticeship and not an expert. Don't go there as an expert. Try to get the answers from the users. Okay. And the second is focus on goals first and task second. So basically, task is related to all what? It's related to all the experiences and all, like you first need to understand why he's coming there on the product or using the product, and then you can go back and like simplify like how that can be achieved. Okay, so it's always good to focus on the goals and use open-ended and closed-ended questions to direct the discussion. So basically you should know as a designer, so what is open-ended question and when that should be asked, and when you should be asking like closed-ended questions. Avoid making the user a designer. So basically don't ask them like, okay, how would you do that, like where should we place it. No, don't ask that, but ask what is that they want to achieve and what are the problems, frustrations, those things. Don't discuss technology. Whenever you're talking, whenever you're having discussion, make use of storytelling. Try to tell a story, try to listen and be a good observer and understand their story also. So try to be a good storyteller and also a good listener, and ask for a show and tell, and also tell them like, oh, okay, like you face this problem, where did you face this problem, can you show that, and like, okay, so what were you doing, like how did you came to that particular screen. So try to get everything from their point of view, and this is what we should be doing like when conducting the research. This kind of research is conducted, one, for the new product when there is no existing product and you're working on a new product, and also like when there is a product and you're there to improve the experience of the product. And avoid leading questions. Okay, so we did that. So this is basically the qualitative part. Now we'll go with the quantitative part. So quantitative part is basically what? The result or the answers you get in the form of the numbers. We create a lot of surveys. They do a lot of different experiments and observations. We do a lot of analytic tools and all. But when you are starting or working on a product which is very new, you will not be having like a lot of data points. Okay, so in those cases, you try to get this information in the form of or by using the method the survey. Okay, so basically, survey is very commonly used. When you have a new product, you will use this method. Here, basically, what you do is you ask questions to the user and then try to get the answers from them. Okay. And when conducting surveys, there are different types of surveys. So basically, majorly as two types. One is the open-ended questions. So basically, you ask a question and then give them a text box wherein they can feed in their information. That is one type of question that you ask, and the other is the close-ended question. So basically, you try to get the answers in the form of. So basically, you provide the answers to the user, and then you ask the user to select the answer for that particular question. So when we talk about closed-ended questions, there are 4 different types. One is the nominal question. Okay, here basically what we do is we give the multiple choices to the user, and that is basically agree, not agree, or both, something like that. Okay, so basically the options are non-numeric. On the other hand, there's another type of closed-ended questions where we give a scale 1 to 5, 1 to 7, and we then try to understand in the form of words again, like whether you are satisfied with the service or not, and then we give the different options. Okay, that is basically the answers are again in the form of words. The third is rating. Rating is in the answers you already provide them, but it's in the form of numbers. You try to tell them like rate the experience or rate the product quality XYZ, and you give the option of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 being the best quality, 1 being the lowest or low quality. Okay, or similarly 1 to 10 depending upon the type of the survey or the product you're working on. And last but not the least is simple yes or no. So you ask a question and you give them the option to select yes or no. So that's it. So these are different kind of questions that you ask on this survey. And when creating a survey, we try to keep these things in mind. So basically, whenever you're creating a survey, try to understand from them or basically try to tell them what is the goal, why are you creating this survey, and why have you sent this, and what you will achieve if they fill this survey. So define the purpose and the goal of the survey. So defining that is very important. And then mention who you are doing this survey for. So basically, if you're working for an NGO, so mention that yes, I'm working for this NGO. If you're working on XYZ product, mention that I'm conducting this research or the survey for this particular product XYZ. So basically, whatever is the reason and like why you are for whom are you working, you should always tell the participant. Okay, and then ask one question at a time or one concept at a time, and keep it very simple and clean. So basically, ask very simple question so that it doesn't confuse the user and the confuser is able to select an answer. Don't complicate, don't ask or use like complex words. Okay, and then organize the question. So basically, there should be a story. It should start with something, start with the introduction, and then it should end with the climax, or like, you know, what you're trying to achieve. So basically, organize your story, tell it in the form of a story, organize your questions, and use a balanced rating scale. So basically, wherever the scaling rating is required, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 10, use it properly. Show the progress. If there are like 10 questions, tell them like, okay, 7 questions are left, or like 6 questions are left. You tell the progress, that because otherwise they might, like, you know, not complete the survey. So try to like show the progress, and then find the right audience. So once you have done everything, you need to know like who are the right audience and whom should you reach, you know, whom should you set this survey. So this you will know only once you have better understanding of like whom you are developing the product. So knowing the audience is very important, and also incentivize the user. So basically, otherwise, like if suppose you have sent to this survey to 100 people, only like 25 people might fill, or even not that, you might not be able to achieve that 20 number also, like 3 or 4. But if you say that I will incentivize this, then people will start participating and filling the survey. So try to incentivize also. And before sending it to the participants, do a test. Try to do a thorough check of what is it, and test it, and then send the survey to everyone. So we use different tools to create surveys. So there's the SurveyMonkey, then there is Google Forms, Typeforms, SurveyTown. There are like so many different vertical response. There are like so many different tools. So you can select any and create your survey, and then start getting the right, you know, insights from the users. Okay. So there are other different methods also. We'll not study these now. We'll try to study at the end when we are doing the testing of a final product. Now what I need is like, I need your help. I need your help to create survey. Last classes, what we did, we did the interview. We had a set of questions. So I'll open those questions. Just a minute. And then we'll try to create a survey. And I'll need your help to create that. So I'm going to share my browser, and what I'll need is, I'll need your help. I'll need your help to create questions. Okay. So do everyone have like all the questions that I had shared in the chat earlier? Yeah, finding users will always be a challenge. So basically what you need to do is you need to work with community, you need to make your own connection, so that initially you will have problem, but like once you have your own connections, it will become very easy. Like this group itself, like we have like 100 people, okay? So you should have a good connection relationship with them, and later on, like when you're working on products where the target user group are the students, or like someone who is into learning and like user experience design technology, so they can be your target user, and this is like ready-made sample of the users that you already, you know, can use. Cool, we have this. Okay, what we're doing, we'll together create this survey. So this is basically here what we'll try to do is we'll try to tell the user, so we are creating this survey for XYZ, and this is what we are trying to achieve using the survey, and we want to, like, you know, like we want to get few answers from them, and we'll be really, really grateful to them for if they participate in this. And so basically here what we'll do is we'll give a very good title. Can you suggest a good title for this? What should be the title? So this is for the academy that we were discussing earlier. Design learning survey. It should be very clear. The heading or the title should be very clear. So basically since we are working or creating a website, okay, design academy website, so we should, perfect. I think like UI UX academy survey. Okay, Rohan also said good, like design academy survey. So what we are trying to do here is it's survey. So these words, we should try to put the survey word in the beginning, and then the other things after that. So I'll start with survey about design academy. Okay, I think like this is good for me. And then below that you can start putting it like what is this for, like why are you doing this, and what will you achieve by doing this. Okay. Yeah, Naveen also said good survey on customers perspective of Kalsify Academy. Perfect. But we'll not use customers perspective here. We'll just say like we'll try to keep it very simple. Okay, survey about Design Academy. Let's keep it this. Now we need to give a small introduction about that. Like we are conducting this survey for this purpose, and we are trying to achieve this, and these are for this, or basically these are the target user group, and this will help us in doing or achieving the XYZ. Right. So now I just put like something. So basically, I am Manprit Kalsi and I'm working on a project, and that is basically designing a website for a design academy. My target user group is called students, freshers, or someone who wants to learn design. And since you are a part of this, so now my thought was like I've used the script from the what I sent you earlier. Okay. So and this is relevant to me because I'll be sending to people who are part of my group, or if they're not part of group, I might have to remove this. Okay. So I suppose they're not part of the group, then I'll have to reframe it and we'll say like my target user group is college going students is this, and since you are of the same, your answer will help me get a good understanding of how students think, which in turn will help me define the courses and future workshops. Yeah, so this is what I want to achieve. Is it good? How should we start? First question. Can anyone suggest? Yes, so what should be named? So basically we'll ask what is your full name. Okay, and this should be what? This should be short answer. Now next is what? Yes, age. Short answer is good. Okay, and what number? This is good. Define yours. How would you define yourself? Okay, so we can have multiple choice or yes. So one can be student, okay. Now one is student, the other is working professional. So is it good, or like how we should change this? What's your idea? Okay, now tell me one thing, like working professional can be like, like 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 7 year. So should we like, should we put it? How many questions can we have in survey? It again depends. What is that you want to, get from the user? So you can have like 10 questions, 15 questions. But even if you can have like 20 questions, but it again depends upon like how you have framed the questions. So it all depends upon like the way you have the engagement is there, like, or how you have framed all the questions, and you should try to ask less, make him like less feeding and more of like selecting. How would you define? Let's keep this way. Now let's move to the next. Now how would you define yourself? After this, what?
Manprit, if working professional, like we can give three options, like 1 to 3 and 3 to 5 and 5 plus. I guess we can give.
Yeah, right. So one is like we can give here, or we can create condition. Okay, so I'll not get into that, but we can do that here. So basically you can create condition like if I select working profession, then what will happen is I'll get other few options also. If I don't do this, then I'll straight away skip to the next one.
Cool.
Okay, if I get into that, it will take a lot of time, so I'll not get into that. But yes, we should. We should understand the user and then define the rest of the next questions. The experience should be defined in a way. Okay, so now we understood like who he is. Then what? Okay, so now the objective of this entire thing is like understanding whether they know design or they have interest in design and so on. So straight away get to the point and ask them like, are you thinking about like, starting a career or you want to learn about design or so on? Are you looking to take a course in design or something like that? What is your understanding about design? Okay. See, now we're just like thinking and putting it here, so it's fine. But when you're creating a real survey, then you need a lot of thinking. Okay, are you interested in design? If he says no, then the set of questions will change or should change. And if he says yes, so then we'll say like to pursue your career in design, right? Yes, no, and then. I think so.
Do you prefer online or offline course?
Right. So that will come again later, but I'll write it. Do you prefer online or offline course?
Will you take any courses to improve? Yes or no?
And what I'm doing here is I've straight away started on the start writing questions on the survey. But what we should actually do is we should create all the questions in a document and then get onto this. So all the thinking should happen before actually getting onto the designing of this survey. Okay. So do you prefer online and offline? And what else? So you're getting the point now. So like what I'm trying to do. So basically this is how you will create the survey, and I think let's keep it here. And now what will happen is, so once you have everything, you can send this to the users. Now let me share this with everyone. So try filling this up, and then we'll see that we'll get some insights and some numbers. Can you all please fill this form? Okay, so we got 11 responses till now. Let's see the numbers. So these are what people have submitted. Now basis this, so now these are the questions that you have asked. Okay, so now you have got the result here. So basically, how would you define design? Define yourself. So I can then learn that, okay, like there are like students here, like, and students have responded in what way, and then it should be like all the questions should be linked to each other and should be framed in a nicer manner so that you can learn from the data, from the insights of like what people have tried to submit. So are you interested in design? We saw yes. See, 21 is interested in design. So in our real scenario, real case, they might be like 40%, 50%. But again, if you're able to reach those 40, 50%, or even like half of that, 25% of your audience or the participants, it will be like win-win stuff for you, win-win situation for you, and then you will be able to sell their product. Or basically, you can again go and further talk to them and understand like, okay, so we received your survey and you said like, yes, you are interested in learning design and you are also interested in learning like design basically by taking online courses. So we are offering or coming up with these courses. So are you interested? So this is the package that we are like, coming up with for the initial or the first comers. So basically if you'll apply first, like if you're among the like 10 initial, applicant, then you will get like 50% discount. And basically then you can market everything, you can strategize everything and so on. Okay. And so we get the number, like see here. Do you prefer online or offline course? So basically we got 14 responses, online, offline, yes, no, because there were like two different questions. So we got this answers. So you can then understand like 42.9% says yes, and so on. So and online says like 35.7. So basically people are ready to like take courses, online courses. So this was just for the test purpose demonstration, and this is how we create survey, and then we get the response, and it's so easy. So you can reach like n number of people and get the understanding of like what they think about the product or services, and whether you can even ask like questions like whether you're going to pay or not, whether you're going to like what is the preferred time like when you want to like take these courses, and accordingly you can then later plan your strategy. So we learned about two things. One is the interview and the other is the survey, and this completes our research part. And now what you should do is you should along with all these scripts and all, you should also create questions for your survey. Okay, be it like 5 questions, 10 questions, and then send it to the to everyone in the group. And this is important because in the last stage, or like in the next stage, we'll understand how to read these numbers, and basis that how to take the decision for design. You getting it? So what are the activities you have done, or what are the next steps for you? Like what you should be doing? I've received like 40 BMC, and I've also received a lot of vision statement, or the product vision statement. Okay, but I have not received competitive analysis. So you should send that to me, and along with that, the script. I have not received the script, so please complete the script also. And once you have done the script, also we need to create the survey. So this is what we need, and I'll put all this like 3-4 things in the chat box.